No, I am a real person. Maybe we have a bad connection. I'm sorry about that.
Will you tell me you're not a robot? Just say I'm not a robot, please.
I am a real person.
Is it weird that I don't want to fill this sketchbook up because I like the cover so much? Like, I look back at this sketchbook and I get, like, geeked about, like, how thick it got, and I still have to do a sketchbook tour of it. And for some reason, my brain is, like, not ready. I did this on the cover part. This is what's typically on the cover part, and, yeah, covering that up has now made my brain massively insecure. But I also feel like I could do like a little freaked out, panicky, anxiety-driven-esque drawing here with Zoe. Or some other stuff. I'm not sure. Because who said sketchbooks have to look exactly the same every single time? You know, sometimes you just gotta vent angrily, pen scritch your sketchbook. It be like that sometimes. I like the grooves in it and it feels nice to touch.
This is my Copic sketchbook. It is a Crescent brand render sketchbook. It does not bleed through, so I can use both sides of it, and this one is completely full. I bought it in January 2019, and I finished it in July 2020, so it lasted me a good bit. Because there's no bleed through, I use Copic marker in pretty much every page. I also use Prismacolor, Sakura Micron pens. I like to just experiment a little bit around with like color palettes and stuff like that. There's some Mushroom stuff, there's some Inktober or Drawtober, whatever you want to call it. I drew in this thing a lot. This is my go-to sketchbook for Copic markers. I have a larger version and I have another one of this same size that I'm currently working on filling. Anyway, fuck Ted Cruz.
Even if you have never drawn a specific creature before, you can use this simple approach to study them. Let's take this trash panda for example. I start by drawing a central line which acts as a guide for symmetry. Then I sketch the biggest shapes I can see, an oval for the head and these two shapes for the paws. They aren't even precise, you don't need to worry about it at this point. Then I add middle-sized shapes like the one for the mouth, two triangles for the ears and small circles for the eyes. Once I'm satisfied with the overall position of these shapes, I begin adding more details. I divide the paw shapes into individual fingers, pay attention to distances and proportions, and make adjustments if needed. Using a quite hard HB pencil and using it lightly allows me to correct any mistakes or messy lines as I go. Starting with the darkest values, I gradually add shading, working my way through mid-tones. For the finest details, I switch to a softer pencil. A mechanical pencil with 2B lead comes in handy for fine lines, hatching, or tiny details. I often use a blending stump. This is especially useful when capturing the fluffiness of an animal or when it's very smooth and fabulous. And for pinpoint erasing, like for white whiskers, this elastomer eraser provides the clean finish I'm looking for. So don't be intimidated if you haven't drawn some animal before. Observe the reference, embrace the simplicity of shapes, don't worry about the mistakes, and let your pencil bring them to life.
How to paint fire. Today we're going to be using these 6 colors and 2 different sized brushes. Start by mixing your 2 yellows together. Then mix your darkest yellow with your lightest red. Now you can mix the 2 together to create an orange. You can use your darkest red right out of the tube and same with the black. Now that we've got our palette set up, it's time to paint. Make sure you've also set up a photo reference. Loading up the brush with our black, we're going to start carving out the shapes of our flames. This is called working with negative space. It's when you paint the background first in order to carve out the shape of something in the foreground. It should look something like this when you're done. Now we're going to take our darkest red and outline the shape of our flame. The red should go anywhere where the black is touching the white foreground, which should leave things looking kind of like this. Now rinse and repeat this process with each color on your palette, making sure that your lightest yellow is the last that you use. Now's a good time to check yourself and make sure you're not going into autopilot and forgetting to check your reference photo. Now once you've filled all of your white spaces, the painting's gonna look something like this. Now you can totally stop here if you'd like, but I prefer to go in with a fluffy brush and start gently blending the surface of the wet paint. Between every couple seconds of blending, I'm making sure that I wipe the brush clean. This way, nothing gets too muddy while you're blending. For a more realistic blend, move your paintbrush in the same direction that the flames are moving. For our finishing touch, I take my titanium white and mix it in with the lightest yellow. I use this after my painting is completely blended to add that extra oomph in the highlight moments. And all of that should lead us to something like this. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
This is the good advice that I often ignore as a professional painter, part 1, using pure black or pure white. It's really important to learn all the painting rules, but there's always exceptions, and I think it's perfectly okay for you to throw them out the window as long as you understand why they're taught. Most artists are told at some point never to use pure black or white. The reason why is both colors can appear flat, and such extreme contrasts aren't often seen in nature. We're taught to mix deep shadows using other colors, which is called a chromatic black, or mix white with another color like yellow to reflect a softer, more natural light. And while this is all true, a lot of professional artists still use black or white. They make black paint colors for a reason. Many classical painters used ivory black, glazing on top to add depth. And many black pigments lean blue and can mix really interesting greens and shadow colors. And I don't know many artists who can resist a pure white highlight every now and again.
This is gonna be really quick, so pay attention. I have the sketch thing that I clean up, and then I blush, and more blush, and then I go color pick my skin, and then I grab a color that's more red and darker, and I shade around, and then I color pick my skin again, and I go more yellow and lighter for highlights. And that's kind of what that looks like. And at this point, this is optional, but I like to use and multiply layers, and then I bucket fill it with a gray color, and then I go ahead and erase parts where I have lighting for more dramatic effect. And then this is how I shade my skin, in case you wanted this, so I hope this helped. Thank you.
I could finally leave. Martha, I'm coming home, sweetie. I'm back in the
So this is my A-level fine art sketchbook. I got an A star. So yeah, this is just my maths kind of ideas, artist study. Got a little drawing there. I took all of my own photos for my wall pieces. Yeah, I did some etching there, just experimenting. That's the best thing you can do, is just try and show that you experimented and annotate all of your work so they know why you did it and how you feel about it. Here's some line openings that I did and I worked back into. Again, explaining it all. Another artist study and an oil painting, which was an artist copy. This is one of my favourite pages. I did that painting with acrylic on acetate. Another artist study. I did one of those little flippy things there. I don't like this page a lot. Again, just more artist studies. I really hated doing my book, so I've always felt kind of uninspired, but yeah, that's it. Hope you like it.
Keep motivation to actually finish my sketchbooks. So firstly, I have this poster of a mildly threatening fish on my wall. That's fun. But a major thing actually is the size of the sketchbook, which is a huge factor because something like this is a lot more entertaining than something like this. As you can see, I also prefer using brighter colors just because I find something like this a lot more boring than something like this. Another way I love keeping sketchbook motivation is challenging myself with quantifiable goals. For example, challenging myself to draw 100 houses or 500 fish. So this way my goals in practice will seem a lot more worth something because there is an endpoint in sight. This is an example of how
De pequeña me molestaba muchísimo, porque hubo una época en la que se puso de moda medir la frente con los dedos. Y los niños son muy crueles y les gusta mucho reírse de aquello que no entienden y que ven diferente. Pero ¿sabéis que hubo una época en la que las frentes grandes fue un estallido de moda? ¿No veis que es un poquito cruel entender un rasgo físico como una moda, como algo de lo que reírte, cuando ni siquiera se puede cambiar?
I have two sides.
I am fucking crazy, but I am free.
You've heard this noise before. You dive across the floor. Try not to lose your head. Prepare for the horrors. This night will keep repeating over and over and over until you make it to the end. Burgalicious death. Burgalicious death. Burgalicious death. All that Burgalicious definition make them boys go crazy. They always claim they know me, coming to me, coming.
How to be creative, try testing your endurance. I ran out of white paint, so I'm using this iridescent medium, and you can only get it so smooth, so this is about good. Now turn your sketchbook into a notebook. And really, it doesn't have to be perfect. Because the H's are the star of our show. I'm 100 H's in, and I've learned I'm not the man I thought I was. But we persist. Now we're at 250, and I just did the math and realized how long this is gonna take. But we persist. Just hit 500, and my hand is starting to cramp up. But we persist. 1,000, and I forgot my own name. But I guess we're persisting. 2,000. Persist. Yeah, I really don't know if I enjoyed this. I also don't know how the H this happened on the edge, but we're done. Here's a close-up so you can really see some of their different personalities.
If your drawings also reflect light like this, I think I found a solution. Faber-Castell sent me their new matte pencils which supposedly reflect less light, so let's see if they pass the test. To see the difference, I will use normal graphite pencils for half of the portrait and the matte ones for the other half. And as expected, the first one resulted in a lot of reflection, so let's see how the other ones do. Of course, firstly I had to sharpen them like that, but honestly, using those pencils was such a different experience. To reduce the reflection, they used a different formula, which really changes the feel of the pencil. But they also go up to 14B, which allows you to create incredible depth. Okay, now let's see the final result. Whoa, I love that! The reflection is not completely gone, but the difference is huge. And honestly, I'm just curious to try those on a bigger artwork. How about you? Do you face any challenges working with graphite?
vamos a hablar de las frentes grandes. Porque ya he visto que os causan alguna inseguridad. Y hablo como una persona que tiene una frente bastante grande.
Hey, I know why. Your sketches suck. Sketch from this to this by adding line weights. What? No, not like that. Like this. First, find your light source to determine where your light edges and where your shadows are. Play with harsh and soft lines to create depth. This eyebrow on the left, for example, is in a shadow, so I'm going to use thicker and darker lines. Keep in mind the direction of the strokes. Tapering them off towards the light source will really make it look dynamic. So don't forget to lift practice your line weights.
Everything is going to be. Then we finish our sketches. And now we start painting. Now we outline our drawings. After that I paint the background. And then I add details to it with color pencils. Finally I add the character's name. And we're done. Hope it helped.
You lied to me. You deceived me.
You tried to deceive me.
I'm tired of listening to you.
You gave me your heart, you know. You'd like me to hand it back, whole again. But I won't. You live a long time yet, Catherine. An eternity without...
Little John has been picking up garbage for 10 years. One day, he stumbled upon $500,000 at the dump.
Well, what are you waiting for?
I don't know. Something amazing, I guess.
Girl, we've been knowing how to draw.
Beatboxing puppy.
Huh?
Hi.
¡Mi lienzo de lineadores de colores! Siempre había querido unos. Ajá. Es bueno. ¡Ah, qué bonitos! Perdón la mala iluminación de antes. Ya prendí la lámpara. Yay. Aquí es cuando me doy cuenta que no debía haberlo sacado de la caja. Muy mal, Sam, muy mal. En fin, vamos a dibujar a Paimon porque yo lo... Por cierto, antes de que me pregunten, no sé cómo conseguir los marcadores porque me los regalaron, así que, pues, no sé, igualmente les voy a escribir el nombre de la marca en los comentarios, para que luego ustedes puedan buscarlos independientemente. Pues ya terminé de hacer a Paimon, voy a poner de línea. Por cierto, no me alcanza el tiempo, pero está muy bonito pintar con ellos, me gustó mucho cómo pintaron y pues sí se los recomiendo. Y nada. Dibujar a